OurChildrenOurWayConference, Sekani, Mechap Etlewit, Quaktwit, to Quietwit, to Squalwins, to Sekani Chit Etete. Good morning, cousins. It's so good to see a room full of our relatives here today. First of all, welcome to our shared territories of our Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh families. We're going to start off, certainly raise our hands in gratitude to our beautiful elders, our Seyachochit, Hoichchachanoyap, Sekaitos, and to our youth, Tistaochchit, to our families, Yuan Hatli Kwachnomi. Please be seated and prepare yourself for a little bit of ceremony. But before we begin our day, I'm going to invite my relatives, Lala Lot, Oreen Johnson, to come forward and start us off in acknowledging Creator and Spirit. Our elders would always tell us, don't put yourself before Spirit, honor Spirit, so we can start in a good way. So let's welcome my dear relatives, Lala Lot, at this time. Hosium.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see so many people here. Creator, grandmothers and grandfathers, the four directions, all our ancestors. It's your granddaughter, Oreen. Creator, thanking you for this day. Thanking you for bringing us all together, the ones that are looking after our children and families' health and well-being. I ask that you bless them all in the work that they're doing, the heart work. Keep us safe, keep our families safe, wherever they are, in all our territories. All this I ask for today and days to come. Osiam, have a great 3 days.
Thank you to our elder, Oreen, for that beautiful opening prayer. I'm now going to invite my niece, Tisachwalot, to come forward and to share her beautiful voice in welcoming us to the territory through welcome songs, which is our protocol. As your canoes arrive to shore, we would sing a song to invite you to come into our homes to join us for our celebration. So, Tisachwalot, Hoichka, Tlanstayat.
O siam siocho chwachet, chet kwan mantomi siam na tlakwa chet nata kamalai ochumeoch. An sequatels chet nata schotmish stalmoch chet. My respected people and elders, I'm very grateful to be here with you all today. My ancestral name is Tisachloit. This is the village of Kamalite, the place of many maple trees. The song I'm going to share with you today is called Siachwalia Slolam, and it comes from Khwai Khwai, which is known today as Lumberman's Arch.
Hoichka te sacholwit an hat quislolam ti hat kokwail. Thank you to our niece for remembering that beautiful old song from our matriarchs Yahwalia. Again, welcome to Kamkamalai. As our niece said, this place is laden with history and mythology. People know it as Vancouver. But by 1900, we were labeled as squatters in this particular village and forcibly removed from our homelands here onto our tiny reserves that comprise 0.3% of our territory. So we're still here, and it's the strength and tenacity of our elders. Thank you, Auntie, as well as our youth today, that we are not assimilated people. We simply adapt to our ever-changing environment, and that is a story of transformation told over and over again. But what has stood strong is our traditions and our laws, our snu'ayat. And this morning, the host family here with Our Children, Our Way leadership have asked us to begin the day with what we call otsam, which is calling of witnesses. We're going to announce a few names of those that we would like to invite to be our witnesses. This is a tradition we do in our communities to this day. It's a long tradition where we invite dignitaries and visitors to join us in our feasting, where we recognize each other, and we ask you to be the eyes and the ears to take into your hearts what you're about to witness over the coming days. Normally at the end of our potlatching, we then invite the witnesses to reflect and to give nuknawiyat, give words of advice in what they have seen and heard. So I'm going to turn to our MC later with Maddie is here. She's going to take the helm shortly if they're going to open it up to the witnesses at the end of the gathering. But to start, we're going to call a few names, and when you hear your name, please stand up and do a little dance. No, I'm just kidding. Stand up, and the family here is going to come and give you a little handshake of some money. We call this your Starbucks fund or Timmy's, but please accept this as a token of our appreciation for your presence. Our first witness we'd like to invite is Cookby Helen Henderson. Osiam Chetkomantomi Nate Aktano Otsam. There you go. Hoichka Cookby. Our next witness is Stephanie Wellman. If Stephanie can please stand up. There she is over to my right. Hoichka. I think that was a little hula dance she pulled there. So.
The last one, so I'll just feed that to you.
Hoichka Stephanie. Our next witness we'd like to invite is Raymond Shingoose. Come on down. No, I'm just kidding. Where is Raymond? Oh, he is coming down. It's like Price is Right. Right on, brother. Our next witness is Judy Gordon. She's Inuk from Nunavut. Where is Judy? There she is. It's really bright up here. I feel like I'm going to get a tan, but I see you over there. Hoichka, welcome. Hoichka, to our witnesses that were called, ultimately you're all being asked to be the eyes and the ears, to take into your hearts and minds the importance of the work that you are all doing within our communities and territories. We commend you for the protection of our children and our families. Again, we are not assimilated people, we simply adapt, and your work matters and it makes a difference based on not only the Western imposition of their ways of knowing, but our Indigenous ways of knowing that have stood the test of time. So witnesses are very important to continue that tradition. And just to remind the witnesses, we do have a good witness protection plan for you afterwards, so don't worry. You're in good hands. So yeah, thank you again to our organizers, the family you see standing to my left. These are the leaders throughout our different regions around what is now called British Columbia. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge our regional chief, Teegee, is here as well. Thank you to our brother for his work that he does as our leader at AFN, the Assembly of First Nations. Also want to acknowledge our good friend Christian White is here. He just carved a beautiful canoe, and there's so many people we want to give shout outs to, but Hawa, brother, for the work you do. It's good to see you all, and this was really all we wanted to do was incorporate a little bit of our Snu'ayat for you this morning to call witnesses. The words of my late grandfather echo at occasions like this when he said, whenever you do work, you must call witnesses, you must blanket your speaker to cover their heart and their mind, to have clarity of thought and good feelings in our hearts to continue this important work. So that's really all we wanted to do this morning. We're going to now invite my dear friend Madeline McCallum, to come forward. She is going to be your MC for the duration of the event, but we wanted to also cover her with a blanket, which is the protocol that we do in our feasts and our ceremonies, is to cover her heart so that she speaks from her heart, to cover her mind so that she has clarity of thought to connect to Creator in spirit, and not be distracted with Rustad or anyone else out there, or EB or any of those guys. We're here focused on the work that's at hand, and we're going to continue to do what we need to do to protect our children. And Maddie's going to be the voice for you this next few days. Just to clarify, this is not a snagging blanket, so... Maddie's father, Tom, is probably one of my favorite elders of all time, and I don't know if Tom's here, but I just want to give a shout out to Tom McCallum as well, as an amazing knowledge keeper, and we're going to pass the mic over to Maddie after this, and I'm going to take my drum and beat it. So have an awesome day, everybody. It's, again, wonderful to be able to start the day in a good way this morning with you, and to see a full room here today really warms our hearts. So watch up, Joost Unamote. Please take care. Men watch up, quiz hot sets up. Continue your important work. Caring for our families. Hosium.
Good morning. That made me even more nervous. Thank you so much for that this morning. I'm going to introduce myself in the language that my mother and father both speak. Tansanawah kumaganak, madlaninisnakasan, sukaskiskwentitihkawin, sakatawakutse niya. I just said, hello, my friends, my family. My name is Madeline. My traditional name is Strong Earth Woman. And I'm originally from northern Saskatchewan in a Métis community called Isla Lacrosse, but my family also comes from Kinole Cree First Nation. I'm really grateful and so honored to be here. So grateful to see all your beautiful faces here again, and to see some familiar faces giving great big hugs this morning. So thank you so much for your love. Is Cross Lake in the house? Yeah! They gave me $20 last night to shout them out. I'm just kidding. We met at Cactus Club. So good morning. Before I share any more thoughts, I'm going to share our first speaker this morning, and I'm so honored to have met this person in the doorway this morning. Regional Chief Teegee is going to come and share some opening remarks. And Regional Chief Teegee is serving third term as Regional Chief, and he's the first Regional Chief in BC to serve 3 terms. Please welcome Teegee.
Merci. Daneza, Tsekuza, Skyza. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, the Coast Salish people. Thank you to my bro Ian for that welcoming. My name is Teegee. I am serving my third term as Regional Chief of the British Columbia Assembly First Nations. I've also served for my tribal council, the Sekani Tribal Council, for 3 terms as well. So I've been in this game too long. So I've been asked this question, and I'm counting, and it's like 15 years, 16 years, going on 16 years as a chief of some sort. I'm from Takla Nation. Any Takla in the house? You owe me $20. I'm honored here to say a few words on the 3rd annual Our Children, Our Way conference, and really, put this in context of where we're at right now in British Columbia in terms of child welfare. Certainly for decades, First Nations have worked tirelessly to assert our jurisdiction and develop approaches and reflect our traditional values and ways of caring for our children. This gathering represents that crucial opportunity to share effective approaches and best practices that strengthen our communities. I'll provide a few comments on the current landscape where we're at the Assembly of First Nations, and certainly we're at a pivotal moment in the transformation of our child and family services. First Nations from across this country are actively engaged in reforming systems that have been deeply rooted in racism and, as you well know, in discrimination. Last week, we gathered in Calgary for the AFN Special Chiefs Assembly on the final settlement agreement. And certainly our leaders demonstrated their commitment to getting this transformation right. The resolution that was passed voted down the final settlement agreement in its current format on long-term reform. The vote was 267 to 147. I would like to say that it wasn't necessarily voted down. I think we just need to get this final settlement agreement right that represents really a justice for our children, equality for our children and families, and continue that important advocacy for our First Nations and our communities. We need for improved solutions that represent diverse nations across what we know as Canada and British Columbia. Community-led solutions that honor traditional cultures, laws, and practices. Increased regional representation in decision-making. Greater involvement of youth voices in program design and implementation. Solutions based on free, prior, and informed consent. These are the foundations of the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, that is provincial and federal law. The First Nations Leadership Council and other Indigenous organizations will continue to advocate for a strengthened, based approach to supporting our children and families, systems that recognize and implement our inherent rights, meaningful inclusion of all regions in program administration, and solutions that work for generations to come. This transformation requires full jurisdiction over our own children, full stop. Traditional knowledge and practice at the forefront. Ideas, concerns, and perspectives from all regions across Canada. Youth involvement in discussions and decision-making. I can't stress this enough. And certainly we must share our successes. Throughout this conference, you will explore community healing approaches, operational development strategies, jurisdictional pathways being forged by various nations, policy innovations that support Indigenous ways of caring, practical tools for strengthening families. And we must learn from each other as well. Recent developments have shown us the importance of honoring traditional cultures, laws, and practices. ensuring strong regional approaches that reflect local needs, building systems based on inherent rights and self-determination, creating space for youth participation and leadership, and supporting community-driven solutions. I can't stress that enough as well. And certainly we need more engagement in terms of over the next few days. I encourage all the participants over the next 3 days to share your community's success and challenges. Learn from the diverse approaches being presented, build connections with others doing this vital work, and consider how shared learnings can be adapted for your context and for your communities. And certainly we need a vision for the future. Together we are building systems that honor our traditional ways of caring, approaches that strengthen rather than separate families, services that reflect diversity of our communities, and also solutions driven by and for Indigenous peoples across this province we call British Columbia. And certainly what we can learn here is how we can best make sure that our representation on this final settlement agreement comes from British Columbia. We need a British Columbia solution. I encourage everybody to participate. And certainly this agreement does have an Ontario vision, and we respect that, and we hold our hands up to them because we're in the same boat. We need regional representation, not only for British Columbia, but Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, that has a really, I would say, an agreement that reflects all our values. But nevertheless, I think in the end, we need this agreement also to reflect the values of British Columbia, a very regional-based and a community-based solution that needs to come from us and from this room and from you, the experts on child welfare. In closing, I just want to share, and some of you may have heard this story before that I've shared about my nephew. I shared this funny story about my nephew who my mother, who's in a hospital right now, adopted. And he was caught in the foster care system in Ontario. And it took many years to get him out of that system. Once you're in the system, you will know it's very difficult to get out. And the late Perry Shawana assisted and helped my family to get my nephew out of the system, and my mother adopted him. And after many years of the fights in the court, we were successful. And this child that my mother and father adopted eventually became very good, played in hockey, went to school in Fort St. James Secondary School, top of his class in a school of 2000s at Prince George Secondary School. He went on to graduate there, went to University of Toronto, went to the University of Northern British Columbia, and became a doctor and specialized in dermatology right now. And now, after many years, he's practicing, has his own practice in West Bank in West Kelowna, and he's a doctor now. Now, how many of those children how many of those, what really concerns me is the potential of those children that we have lost in the system. And, just staying close to downtown East Side and Hastings, driving down that street and going and seeing a number of our homeless, and knowing full well, whether it's the downtown East Side or where I live in Prince George and Moccasin Flats, knowing that a great number of them came from the system, from the foster care system, from youth in care, aged out, that are on the streets or perhaps succumb to the opioid crisis. So this is why it's so important that we need a voice. This is why it's so important that we need to take care of our own children, because the current system doesn't work. We need to make sure that our children are safe, that are in our communities, so we can avoid some of the trappings of the whole foster care system. And certainly we know full well that a number of our youth, there's a direct connection between how many youth are in care to the incarceration system, of the justice system. So this is why it's so important. This is why it's important that we get the final settlement agreement right, why we have a British Columbia voice in that agreement, but also how we take over jurisdiction and fully implement UNDRIP of sovereignty and self-determination, but a full expression as well in terms of Bill C-92. So I'll just leave with that, and thank you very much. Masicho, Bandara Hunzu. Have a good day. Masicho.
They just have a little gift for you, Terry. If you can please stand while they give you your gift. Thank you. Thank you so much. As they're giving a blanket to Terry, I just want to say that I am one of those children that was in the foster care system, and I made it out. And to be able to stand on stages like this and for many people to believe in me is what saves my life every single day. Even though I am out of the foster care system, that still stays with me. And that validation that I lacked during that time has really affected my life. But that's why I wear this t-shirt that literally says, "As I am is enough," because even if I was in that system, it didn't mean I was unwanted. It doesn't mean that I wasn't enough. It didn't mean that my parents didn't love me. I am forever grateful to my mom and dad. My mom's name is Camellia Roy. My father's name is Tom McCallum, also known as White Standing Buffalo. And every single day, I say that they are the strongest people I know on this earth. Even though they didn't raise any of their 17 children, they are the strongest people I know on this earth because every single day they live with shame and guilt of not being able to raise us, and they still find a reason to keep going. And that is true strength to me. And yes. So thank you so much, Terry, for your words this morning. Thank you for bringing that forward because that validated me in the work that I'm doing standing here in front of you. I'm going to move forward to our next speaker, who I met last year for the first time, and ever since then have been channeling her strength and her power and her spirit when I stand on stages like this. I always say this is my new auntie, and I have the honor of introducing Mary Teegee, and I'm just going to share all of her beautiful titles that she carries. She's the chair of the Our Children, Our Way Society. She is the BC representative on the National Advisory Committee for Child and Family Reform. She is the BC representative on the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society of Canada. She is the president of the BC Aboriginal Child and Care Society and the executive director of Child and Family Services at CSFS, and a film producer of the Highway of Tears documentary and For Love, now being shown on Netflix. So please welcome Mary Teegee. Woo!
Good morning, Danuze, Tsekuze, Skaize, Samolgit, Samnaha, Samhanak. Good morning, chiefs, leaders, nation members, allies. Good morning, my family. Good morning, good people. First of all, I would like to thank the Tsleil-Waututh Musqueam Squamish for allowing us here on your territory, your beautiful territory, to conduct these very important meetings. Welcome to my house right now. Back up. Thank you for the prayer, the songs, and all the wonderful sentiments. I look outside and out here and I think, wow, this is so amazing, just how a small idea can turn into this great conference. And this idea of having everybody come together when it came to child and family, having new money. We had finally had the new prevention dollars coming into our nations, coming into our agencies. We understood that there was capacity issues. Some of the smaller communities, especially if they didn't have an agency, didn't have the capacity to start utilizing the prevention funding because they needed lots of support. And we understand that across the country. So I thought, well, why don't we just have a conference? And so I was delayed on the tarmac. So I hand wrote ideas and the agenda and what it was going to look like. And I sent it to my staff at the Secretariat, and I said, well, type this up and let's get some money to do this. So I was thinking about 300 people. Then I opened my big mouth at the NAC meeting, and I said, oh, we're having this wonderful conference. And some people said, can I go? Can I go? And I kept saying yes, not letting my staff know. And finally, thank God, we hired Kyra Mason. We ended up with just under 1,000 people in that first conference. So, and then last year, of course, we had more, 1,100 people, and then now we have 1,350 with hundreds on the waiting list. So it's growing. Yeah. This really tells me that there's a need for us to gather and to have those fruitful discussions about what is needed by our communities, about the wellness of our children and how that wellness is paramount. We are all facing unprecedented times. We have the opioid crisis, leaving grandparents to take care of their children, leaving our babies without parents. This is all our reality. It is our social workers, our family preservation workers, nurses, doctors, mental health workers, etc., that are helping and fighting a seemingly futile battle on some days. You know what that feels like. It is our families, sons, nieces, nephews, cousins that we're losing. It is our nations losing potential chiefs and leaders. Remember, unprecedented times call for unprecedented actions. These unprecedented actions are you, as you work to become everything to everybody, it seems like. We are making innovative decisions. We're working overtime. We're fighting for our clients, for our families. We are making things happen. We're doing things like wraparound supportive housing. We're, Bill Yoakum here in the BC is just opening up a youth treatment center. We have Cheryl Williams, for example, opening up longhouses. We have Christian White, who just launched a canoe. We have all of these wonderful things that are happening across the country to deal with the opioid crisis. I often remind people, especially non-Indigenous people, people don't just wake up one day and say, I want to become addicted and end up on the street. It is something that is not their choice. It is something that has happened to them, to us. The impacts of residential school and the impacts of colonization cannot be understated, nor should it just become a footnote, nor should it become trite, because it is very real. We see it each and every day in our communities. The intent of this conference is that you share your best practices with each other. If there's a place where you don't feel like you're doing really well within your agency or within your community and need help, ask for help. I know that we have people from Nunavut here. We have people from the East Coast. We have people from Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Alberta. We have somebody represented from every province and territory in this room. So imagine all your minds coming together, the strength and the energy that we can come up with good solutions. And I think that's why I'm so excited. Over the 3 days, take the time for yourself. Indulge yourself in all the knowledge you will have access to. Over these next 3 days, we are family. We are not from any one nation. We are just a bunch of mothers, fathers, family members, nieces, nephews, aunties, social workers. We're just people in this space together with no political allegiance, just here to help our children and families, working together to better our nations and to overcome the impacts of residential school. Every step we take, when we take it together, it's a stronger step. So till one day, there will be no such thing as the impacts of residential school other than in the history books. I know many of you have seen or heard about the rejection of the $47.8 billion projected funding. And I definitely know that there are some that had, heavy hearts or are anxious or nervous. I just want to assure you why we rejected that simply it wasn't good enough for our children now, nor was there any certainty for those children after year 10, the ones that were not yet born. So we had to ensure that whatever agreement we have stands the test of time, to make sure that any child that is born would not have to suffer the discrimination that our generation suffered. And this is why we had to stay strong. And thank God that the chiefs and everybody really understood the fight that we had to make sure that there was justice and that discrimination ends, but more importantly, that discrimination never happens again. Again, this is you. This is your mind, your spirit that's with us. Whenever we go into those rooms, with negotiations room or wherever we go, I take you with me because I know it's your hearts that see the front line, that gets broken every day. But I also know it's your hearts that get strong when somebody does really well, when you get a family back together. I take that with me too. So I just really wanted you to be aware that moving forward, your words and what we learn here today and in places like this across the country, those are what guides us. It's not a bunch of lawyers speak. It is the heart of our people that guides us, and I want to promise you that will never change. When my staff comes to me and they ask me questions and they ask me for a consult, and they say, this is what we think, we have a plan for this family. And then I always ask them, would this plan be good enough for your child? If the answer is no, I ask them, then why should it be good enough for anyone else's child? I thought about the same about the agreement that came down. It doesn't support all the children at the same level. Throughout the country, some provinces would receive more than other provinces. And then I think about myself. Would we have that? Would we have that discrimination where one child over here gets more than the next child on our caseload? No. That is not a principle, an Indigenous principle. And I think, let's think about the Haida land title. They called it the rising tides. And the reason rising tides is because the rising tides lift all boats. That's what we need to do when we think about any agreement when it comes to our children, regardless if you live in far north, none of it, or if you're living on North Island where it's very hard to access service, this agreement should lift us all up, not to be forgotten, but to be unitedly strong. We have, I also think that any child that is hurting, they're all our children. If we believe that all children of the nations are ours, imagine what this agreement would look like. We are all here to hold our most important resource together, to lift them up. We are all here to uphold the most important laws, and it's simple. It's the law of love. If everything we do comes from the law of love, no agreement would discriminate against another group of people. No agreement would forget about those not yet born. So I'm really happy that I'm here with you. It is such an honor, and I feel such good energy, and I'm really looking forward to the next 3 days. Masai, Masai, Masai.